New Thought Media Network proudly presents Lindsay Leimbach, Practicing Infinite Possibilities, Fridays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And now, here's Lindsay.
I'm here. Oh, I'm so excited to be with everyone. Welcome to PIP. Welcome to PIP. Today is a special day for us in California. If it's 9 o'clock live here, or maybe you're on the East Coast having lunch with Practicing Infinite Possibilities, because today we're having Patrick Harbula with us. And I have to tell you, I'm so honored to have him as our special guest. And I really want to tell you why. He has done so much. Human potential movement. He's just like what I love about PIP, human potential movement. He sees that everyone can make that pivotal shift, that they have infinite possibilities inside of them. He's a teacher, he's an author, he's an international speaker. Here, let me show you a picture of him with his lovely wife, Karina. Look at that, in Egypt. He does fabulous retreats on islands. We've got to ask him about how he takes a whole group of people on these retreats to make these incredible shifts inside themselves. Look at this. Wow. Full moon meditations. He also does sweat lodges. He is so filled with joy and humility. So we're going to have to get it out of him a little bit, because he's really much more amazing, but he's so laid back, wise, loving, caring. He's done many other things. I just want to throw this up and we'll get back to it. But he's written 2 fabulous books: The Magic of the Soul, Applying Spiritual Power to Daily Living, and another book called The Simple and Practical Way. Now, I told him he's done 3 books. He goes, Lindsay, I haven't done 3 books. I said, yes, you have. He goes, well, I'm working on one. So maybe we can get him to talk about his new book that he's doing. But one big shout out before I bring him in. Guess what? Happy birthday, Patrick. It was your birthday. It's your birthday week. So happy birthday to you, my dear friend. Here we go. Let's see. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I got so many birthday wishes. I couldn't count them all.
I'm sure. And one reason why you have so many birthday wishes is because you're out there helping humanity.
Mm-hmm.
People all over the world.
Yeah, well, I'm just doing what I love to do, and the fact that it seems to help other people is just icing on the cake.
Well, that's why I really wanted to bring you on as my very first, I'll never forget this, interview on PIP.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah, well, Practicing Infinite Possibilities. And I know that actually we used to do a show together that you designed called Next Step.
Yep.
And it was about 15 years ago, and the universe brought us together, and we used to interview people on cable network, which was so cool.
Yeah.
So I knew in my heart that you realize that there are infinite possibilities, that lies within all of us, and that your message is out there, that this magic, the soul, gets to express itself. You know, how do you reach people? What do you think is the reason why people don't see that they have infinite possibilities? They get kind of rigid or stuck.
Well, number one answer is self-love. And, this is on New Thought Network. I'll get on a little bit of a pulpit here.
Yeah.
I feel in New Thought, we do not talk or teach self-love enough. We talk a lot about how to manifest things, and that's all well and good, but we can't manifest any more than we feel we deserve. And we, how much we feel we deserve is completely and totally related to how much we love ourselves. One question I often ask people, if I feel that talking to them, a client or whatever, and self-esteem is an important growing edge, is on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love yourself? And I'm sometimes amazed at the honest answers I've got. I've gotten 1s, 2s, I've gotten 0s. And then I'll say, if it's below 10, there's room for improvement. If it's 5 or less, it's the most important thing one can do, is to raise that level of self-love.
All right, so let's dive into that, because I know that you do really great coaching with people, and you get in there, and not only do you coach with people, but I think you coach with organizations, which also is like a living consciousness in an organization. And if they're living in loathing, of themselves, they also don't perform to their highest or actually show their potential. So you work with both, and I just want to put that out there. But a lot of people that I have worked with, I find, is that they have those old tapes within themselves. I'm not good enough. And I don't know, they got it from their parents, they got it from their culture, they might have gotten it from their religious organizations, they might have gotten it from many different, their neighbors, I don't know, their peers, but they feel like they're not good enough, that they're broken somehow. And then as an adult, they kind of hide that. They say, oh, I'm good enough. But the truth underneath them, they're like, oh, people are judging me. How do you work with people? And how would you work with anybody who needs to get in there and realize that it's really an old tape?
Yeah, well, the most powerful work I do with people, which I learned in psychosynthesis, a form of transpersonal psychology, years and decades ago when I was trained in that system. I was just thinking about my teacher, and I want to shout out to her. She's passed many years ago, but Vivian King. And I was just thinking about gathering a reunion of my classmates, because I was thinking about how valuable the work that I learned from her has been in my life, in my work, in my service to others. So voice dialogue is where whatever that tape may be, whatever that voice in my head is that says you're not good enough, is then we actually get an image, or if I was working with someone, I invite them to get an image of that part of themselves and then dialogue with it, ask it some questions, find out why it's there. Because the interesting thing, the absolutely fascinating thing, is the part that we think is the problem within us actually contains within it the qualities that we most need to integrate in order to create the life that we want to live. It's completely not non-intuitive until we actually see it. So, for example, if it's that voice that you're not good enough, what that voice needs is, it needs love, but we don't have access to those qualities, full access, because we think it's the problem and we're resisting it. We're pushing it away, right? That's the problem. That's what's holding me back. But we find is that part of it needs the opposite of being pushed away. It needs love. We call them subpersonalities in transpersonal psychology. So every part of ourself is just like a person. It needs exactly what a person needs. It needs to be loved. It needs a purpose. And so let me give you this simple way, because, to demonstrate it, it would make more sense, but it would take a lot of time. But the simple way to do this on the fly is any part of yourself that you don't like, whether it's a voice that says you're not good enough, whether it's a fear of moving forward. Imagine it's a small child and you are its loving parent. How would you want to treat a small child? I often hear teachers say, we got to love every aspect of ourselves. We have to do our shadow work. But then they might say something like, but I got to get over this fear in order to move forward. Well, if you said to a fearful child, I need to get over you, how would it respond? It becomes more fearful, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how would I want to respond to a fearful child? To give it love, to hug it, to tell it it's safe. So anything you don't like in yourself, imagine it's a small child and give it love.
Okay, I just want to say, That is spot on. You articulated what you go through for in my own life, because I know that my resistance, or what I get in when I'm not good enough. Of course, why did I pick I'm not good enough? Because it's in my subconscious mind, right? That's why I gave that example. I could have said something else.
Yeah.
And that I know is rooted back from being dyslexic and going to special ed school and not knowing how to read until I really read kind of well until I was in third grade, and feeling judged. And so I felt I'm broken. I knew I was dyslexic. I knew I was in special ed. I always knew I was in the dumb reading classes. I always knew that if I got a D on a spelling test, my parents would be happy for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that wasn't good. Everyone else was getting A's, and I'd get a D, and my parents would be happy, which was they were being kind to me, but the inner child felt broken.
Right.
And I've done a lot of work, but you nailed it, because I can still feel that feeling pop up once in a while of, oh, someone's going to know I don't know how to spell well, or I can't read fast enough, or I made an edit error. My dyslexia pops in, and that little girl pops up going, what are you doing? What are you doing? You shouldn't be doing any of this. You crazy lady, you need to go hide. You're broken. And it's that little child that you just spoke about that pops up, and I have to acknowledge it. If I dismiss it, I get more anxious.
Exactly. The thing that I say probably 30 times a week in coaching and classes and in sweat lodge ceremonies is whatever we resist not only persists, but magnifies. It becomes stronger, right? Whatever we embrace or bring love to becomes our ally, our teacher, and our healer.
I love it.
It is so important. And, I can say it 30 times a week, and it takes a while for people to integrate that, right? It took me years to integrate that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's intuitive once we recognize that and start playing with it in that way. But it's just human nature to resist what is uncomfortable, right?
Right. Well, it's in your brain. Your amygdala goes off and says fear, danger, and then you go fight, flight, or freeze. You don't have fight, flight, freeze, or accept.
Right. Exactly.
You have to override your brain with your higher consciousness, with this prefrontal cortex. And that's what you're teaching people to do, to override the fight, flight, and freeze component and embrace it, and don't resist it.
Right.
Don't resist it. Do you have this in The Magic of the Soul? I read that book when we worked together in the past. And I want everyone to know that Patrick's information is all below. I have his phone number. I have his website. I have every way to contact him, because this is so powerful. Is this information also in your books?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say the number one message in The Magic of the Soul is love. And it's the answer to everything. You give me any problem in the world or any person's problem, and the answer is always love, right? So there's one way I say in The Magic of the Soul, when we're on a spiritual path, probably we'll butcher the quote a little bit, but paraphrasing, because I haven't read it in a while. But and by the way, the book is 22 years old, and it's still selling copies all the time. It's a bestseller. It's used by Centers for Spiritual Living as curriculum to train ministers and practitioners. But this is one of the ways I say it is that, as human beings on a spiritual path, we're moving toward this ideal, what I would call soul. One way to name it is soul consciousness, right? And so we call that being on a spiritual path. But when we arrive at soul consciousness, we turn our attention in reverse, away from the ideal, toward the imperfection of our humanness, right? And so when I'm in soul consciousness, I'm not judging my personality as being flawed. I'm seeing those flaws as opportunities to serve, in the same way that a loving parent sees in their child, loves their child, not in spite of their imperfections, because of their imperfections, because that's what it creates a purpose for a parent, to raise that child up. So when I'm in soul consciousness, I'm loving my personality and all of its flaws, unconditionally.
Oh
And
my
here's
God, I just want to jump in and hug you, because
and
that really is what I feel like I live. I always say to myself, I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm
mm,
perfectly imperfect.
right. I love
And
that song, right?
yeah.
That
And so
lyric.
when my imperfections, being dyslexic, that would tell me feeling like I
Mhm.
was not good enough. Well, you jump ahead. I ended up becoming a special ed teacher. I ended up becoming a principal of a special ed school. I became a headmaster of the special ed school. Why?
Mhm.
Because I was a special ed kid and I
Right.
embraced it.
Yes.
I understood the fear, the pain, the inadequacy. And when those kids said, you don't understand what it's like to be me. And I
Mhm.
look at her and say, I am you. I went to a special ed school and now I'm your principal. They're
Yeah.
like shocked.
Yeah.
It's this incredible. You always do a pivot technique. And I think this is what, and it's that shocking awakening that there's an infinite possibility, and they saw broken as the only possibility,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Let me give you a reframe that I think people
yeah,
tend to really relate to
yeah,
is so I do life purpose work with people and help them to clarify and define their life purpose at a deeper level. And one of the questions in my little formula for helping people to identify life purpose is this: what did you not get enough of as a child? What quality or guidance did you not get enough of as a child? Right. And when people identify that, whether it be love, whether it be guidance, whether it be, I felt I didn't get enough acceptance from my father. He was an alcoholic, right? And that's not a complaint about him, because, as you'll see, that was his gift to me. Because the next question is, how does it feel when you create that experience for other people? Right? And that's when the light goes on for people. What we didn't get enough of is what inspires us to create in the world. And if that's the case, then guess what? What we didn't get enough of is not a liability. It's in fact, our greatest strength. I like to quote Robert Bly, who said, "Our wound is our gift to the world." So isn't that a huge reframe? My life purpose is I empower people to feel accepted. And that very question and that very process, right, comes out of that life purpose. Because if you get that, oh, what I didn't get enough of isn't a liability, then I accept myself at a deeper level, right?
okay, so let's circle back to how you started. You
Mhm.
wanted to shout out that we have to have more self-love, and that we really need to embrace that. And
Mhm.
as we're talking and you're bringing me around to this, I'm realizing a lot of my clients are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the feeling of abandonment from their parents. It's not that their parents literally abandoned, but a lot of people, including myself, were latchkey children. Back
Mhm.
in the 70s, the mom started to work, the dad worked. The dad didn't feel like he should be part of the family because that wasn't the role of the dad back then. It hadn't grown to what we know that dad needs to participate at an
Mhm.
equal level with mom. That wasn't how it was set up in our culture. And then all of a sudden, mom felt like she could get a job and get an education and was out. And all of a sudden, all these kids are just running around and
Mhm.
not having the validation. So abandonment or alcoholism or anger or divorces started to come at a much later time during that time tends to be a big theme. And
Mhm.
what is the definition of abandonment? Not feeling loved,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
that's what you're saying. Go back to it, not feeling loved. And so what should you do? Exactly what you said in the beginning of this talk, which I love, is you don't run around and go, poor me. Your parents did the best they could with what they had. You got to let that go, right? You got to let that
Well,
go.
ultimately, you have to let it go. But I was have young people that I work with, and I have daughters and friends of daughters, and what I see happening, and I think this is just in psychology, this is a thing, right? Is that kids? I was telling this to someone who on a retreat recently who was of a young age, and he was talking about how bad his relationship with his mother and stuff. And I said, you go through a phase where in order to forgive your parents, you have to first get angry at them, right? You have to get that emotion out. right? And then once that happens,
Yes.
then you can get to the forgiveness. And then ultimately you can forgive yourself, right?
I love it.
Right.
That is so beautiful. And I do think that it's okay to say, I'm angry at that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't deny that. Like
Yeah.
say, when I said, oh, just let it go, you don't dismiss it.
Right.
You have to embrace it. We go back to what you said before. Say what you said. What you resist.
What we
Tell me.
resist not only persists, but magnifies. What we embrace becomes our ally, our teacher, and our healer.
Amen. If we could all get that kind of tattooed, right, on our arm,
Right.
keep reminding ourselves all day.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of long. How about just embrace everything, resist nothing?
Okay, thank you. See, I
Or
could fit
resist
that on
everything,
my arm because I'm really long arm, but not average person couldn't do that.
or resist nothing, embrace everything.
I don't want to miss out on some things that you're doing. And one thing you're doing is sweat lodges. And I just wanted, we have a few more minutes. I could talk to you for hours, but could you tell me what a sweat lodge is?
Mhm.
Why do people go? Because I love that you bring in this Native American, ceremonies. And a lot of us are always very curious, but we're extremely ignorant or naive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not for everyone, number one. If you don't like being in completely dark, enclosed, hot, moist places, you wouldn't like a sweat lodge.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to
But,
know.
it's really about surrender and embracing, right? Is it the same thing? That's one thing I tell people in preparing them to go into a sweat lodge is if you resist the heat, guess what? It's going to magnify. If you embrace it, surrender into it, then it can raise your consciousness into the mystical realm, into higher dimensions. So it's a purification process. We're purifying, obviously, physically through the heat, the sweating, but we're purifying emotionally, spiritually, mentally through the prayers that we say in the sweat lodge, through the tribal chants that we sing together. So it's just a powerful thing. I mean, people say that I've had people say it's like, doing hallucinogenic medicine, right? It can take you into this whole different space. And that's why Native American peoples do this. It's known best as a Native American ceremony, but sweat lodges have been done on every continent in some form or another.
Wow.
And
How long do
so,
you go in? What is it? Just the fundamentals of it, because I'm so naive to it.
yeah, so we have 4 rounds. We're in there 2.5, 3 hours actually. So there's 4 rounds to it. The first round, I'm calling in the directions. The second round, where we actually go around and each person says a prayer for self, prayer for others, prayer for the world. Third round is a singing round as we do it. And then fourth round is called a visioning round, where we just surrender and it's like a vision quest. We let spirit take us where spirit wants us to go.
That is so magnificent. I want to put up your website right here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about, if people come to your website, you've done so many things. I really want people to be able to be educated by you further. Tell us what's on your website, and what is the things that are coming up that they can participate with you, because you do so many magnificent things that a lot of ministers, reverends don't do. You're
Mm-hmm.
very unique on that, and
Yeah.
that makes you so incredibly special, I think.
Well, there's everything's on the website. There's 450 pages of content. So,
Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was so much.
we do life coach certification program. We have the sweat lodges. We do retreats. We just came back from one on Catalina Island. You showed the picture earlier. We've been doing them on Catalina Island for the last 5 years. Done them in Saskatchewan, Canada, in Alberta, Canada, all over Southern California. What else? I used to publish Meditation Magazine. We've got articles from Meditation Magazine. We've got all of the meditations and exercises from the Magic of the Soul and more. What else is important that we love to do? The life purpose definition process that I guide people through. You go to the website and you click on a link and it takes you to that. And within 10 minutes, you can run through that process and end up coming out with a life purpose definition, which it's never something that people aren't already doing. It's just putting the most powerful phrasing to why we're here on the planet. And what I then offer to people is use this as a mantra that you take in every area of your life. Because when our clear intention is to fulfill our life purpose, we always rise to our highest.
I love that. I love what you just said about, well, you said that your book, The Magic of the Soul, is 20 years old. Well, how old is, the Bible? How old is the Vita Vita? How old is all those, writings from Alan Watts? That's not that old, but good stuff, really good stuff.
Yeah.
The truth is the truth, and it's presented in different ways. And I love that you really have brought a lot of the truth of past, whatever it is, ancient wisdoms, but you bring it into today's world, with today's society. What is the biggest thing that you could help people, because we are all really expressing anxiety? Being stressed right now is almost, I would say, a normal thing. Chronic stress. Oh, how stressed are you today? I'm more stressed than you. And you're manifesting. It's almost you're comparing, trying to beat people out, saying I'm most stressed and I've had the worst COVID experience or the worst financial experience. And I'm like, wow, people are really manifesting in the negative. What do you do when you find someone who is leaning into the negative?
I'm getting so excited to answer this question. I love simplicity, and this is the simplicity of it. Number one, self-love. Number two, simply live from an inner experience of freedom and joy. Now, that sound great in principle, but how do we do that? Well, here's the thing. What we tend to do as human beings is we use the outer world, the world of form, to determine how we feel inside. I'll be happy when I get a better job. I'll be happy when I get more money, or when I find my soulmate, or when, the wars are over, and all these things are outward focused. But it's always, as long as we're doing that, we're using the world of form to inform our inner experience. But it always works in reverse. That's how the law of attraction works, is when I simply can find a way to feel joy in this very moment. In fact, let's do this with your audience. Take a moment to just think of it, the most joyful thing you've ever felt, right? Or think of that puppy or kitten that you love, or your child or your grandchild. And right now you feel joy. You've just done it. Simple as that, right? Now, my inner experience starts informing the world of form, so that now I am attracting joyful experiences to me. And if horrible things are happening in the world, they don't affect me as much, because I am in joy. I am in love. I am in any spiritual quality that you want to name. It's an inside out game. We simply have to switch it around. Rather than the world of form making me happy, it's only me. It's only what's inside me that can create joy. And then the world of form will take care of itself.
Okay, I have another tattoo for my arm. It's an inside out game. Right?
Yes.
It's an inside out game. And I love what you're saying. Joy is like such a high vibration emotion. So if you're at this higher level and I walk into a room, I really love that. And someone is in anger, their anger does not interfere with my joy. And if anything, I'm bringing in light, and I start my vibration, my being here, starts lifting the room. It's like you're the candle and you go into the cave, you put out light. Doesn't matter how many people are dark in the cave. If you have the candle, the light is there.
Exactly. I say that all the time. There's people who say, oh, when in a negative situation, I surround myself in light to protect myself. I feel the best offense, or the best defense, is a good offense. I don't have to protect myself from the environment. I just radiate light into it, right? Rather than me, because if I'm protecting myself from negativity, I'm giving it power. If I'm just being light, then nothing can harm me, right? Because I'm affecting the world rather than protecting myself from the world.
God, I want to hug you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's internet hug. Well, I want to hug everyone who's shown up and who's going to see this in replay. As you can see, I have to point this way to Patrick. Patrick's awesome. He radiates everything I said, joy and kindness, optimism, fun. We didn't even get into music. He can play the guitar and the drums. He flows in all those ways. He has a magnificent wife that I just adore, but of course he does, because he's going to attract a woman filled with equal amount of wisdom and joy. So I feel so blessed to call you my friend. So everyone check out. You have one last thing you want to say?
One last thing.
Okay.
This phrasing came to me about self-love, that when I love myself unconditionally, what I realize is that I am not myself. I am in fact the self. I am in fact pure love. And so are you, Lindsay, and so is everyone who gets to watch your amazing show.
You know what? I feel it. And I want to thank you. The self and the love is radiating from you to me, to everyone. So I want to thank you all. I want to appreciate you coming here. I look forward to having you back. We have so much to talk about. I want everyone, so we'll say goodbye to Patrick, and let me see. I'm learning how to do this. Thanks again. I want to thank everyone coming to New Thought Media Network. Remember, we're a nonprofit organization, so we love to have your donations to support people getting the words like Patrick and getting that love through the internet and through the world, and hear about these terrific books. You know, check out all the other people that are on New Thought Media Network as well. They're fabulous. They're fabulous. And here's the donation. So I really do appreciate you all being here. Lots of love. Next week, we're going to have Lisa Coffey. She's an Ayurvedic specialist, and she has written a book, not a book, a rock opera on the Bhagavad Gita called Song Divine that is up for a Grammy. She's hoping that she'll be in the running for a Grammy, which is so fabulous. So I'll see you next week, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents